In 1921, a brilliant engineer solved a simple mechanical problem. His solution worked perfectly. It also permanently damaged the brains of 170 million Americans and poisoned the atmosphere for 70 years. Welcome to the Cobra Paradox. This is the story of leaded gasoline, America's deadliest engineering mistake. A disaster that didn't start with evil intentions. It started with engine knock, corporate greed, and industry-funded science that poisoned the world. The 1920s. American cars had a massive problem. Engine knock. Fuel detonating too early inside cylinders, literally shaking engines apart. Thomas Midgley Jr., a mechanical engineer at General Motors, found two solutions. The first was ethanol. It worked. But GM couldn't patent it. Any farmer could make it. The second was Tetraethyl Lead, or TEL. It also worked, and it was highly patentable. Standard Oil and GM chose TEL, not because it was better, because they could control it. Lead had been known as a poison for centuries. The Romans knew it. Midgley knew it. But the corporation made a choice. They chose the solution they could control. Within months of production, workers started dying. Manufacturing plants in New Jersey and Ohio saw workers hallucinating, frantically brushing invisible insects off their bodies. Historical accounts call these facilities the House of Butterflies. Dozens died violently. Midgley himself suffered severe lead poisoning. The corporations knew TEL was lethal. Did they stop? No. They funded the research that would exonerate their product. General Motors and Standard Oil funded a laboratory at the University of Cincinnati, led by Dr. Robert Kehoe. Kehoe became both the lead industry's chief medical defender and the government's primary authority on lead safety, a fundamental conflict of interest. Kehoe developed what later became known as the Kehoe paradigm. If economic benefits exceed health costs and harm can't be proven with absolute certainty, no restrictions are needed. He testified that lead was natural in the human body, that microscopic amounts from exhaust were harmless. Because industry funded almost all lead research, Kehoe controlled the narrative for 50 years. This wasn't malicious, it was structural. When the industry funds the research supports the industry. It's not conspiracy, it's how incentives work. Leaded gasoline was pumped into every American car for 6 decades. In 1965, geochemist Claire Patterson finally proved Kehoe's baseline was fiction. The world was being poisoned. Even then, it took 31 more years to ban it. 1996, final phase out. By then, the damage was catastrophic. A 2022 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences analyzed blood lead data from 1940 to 1996. 170 million Americans alive today were exposed to dangerous lead levels as children, more than half the current U.S. population. Researchers estimate cumulative IQ losses of roughly 824 million points, an average of 2.6 to 3 points per person. People born in the 1960s and 1970s lost 5 to 7 points each. At the population level, this shifted millions from average cognitive ability to below average. Beyond IQ, cardiovascular disease, kidney damage, increased aggression, neurological disorders, millions of premature deaths worldwide. Here's the disturbing part. Midgley didn't stop with leaded gasoline. In the 1930s, he invented CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, Freon, the chemical that destroyed the ozone layer. One man. Two of the most catastrophic environmental mistakes in history. But the ultimate Cobra paradox is how his story ends. Midgley contracted polio, and ever the engineer, he invented a complex system of ropes and pulleys to help lift himself out of bed. In 1944, he became entangled in his own invention and was strangled to death. The man who engineered the poisoning of the world was ultimately killed by his own engineering solution. This is the Cobra Paradox. An engineer solved a problem. The solution worked brilliantly. But because research was funded by the industry it regulated and economic incentives overwhelmed public safety, That cure caused permanent brain damage to half the country. This isn't about villains, it's about incentive structures. Coming up, how Smokey Bear built the megafires, why recycling ends up in landfills. Solutions change the world. Incentives shape solutions, and incentives don't care about consequences. Subscribe if you want to see the pattern. This is the Cobra Paradox.